From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. Nick Beres here on our Wednesday. Good show on tap for you. Hope to join in the conversation because this is your chance to ask questions, inquire about whether or not you feel you were done right, or hopefully done right, or perhaps done wrong by a doctor, by a hospital. This is where we talk about malpractice and what your rights are and how whether or not you know you have a case. We'll get into it. As you see on the screen, it says medical malpractice. The number 737-7587, and there's some very interesting cases to talk about. With us to discuss this, prominent local malpractice attorney Clint Kelly. Good morning to you,
Morning to you, Nick. Good to see you.
I'm just underdressed. Look, I'm just not even wearing my jacket. You look extremely dapper.
Well, thank you. I feel dapper today.
You look sharp, and thanks for coming on. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
Hey, real quickly before we get into some of the cases, and we've got the lines open, you're invited to jump in, but I wanted to ask you, today's July 1st. Was there any litigation that passed that is affecting, what you do? The laws are changed. We know about tort law and adjustments being made by lawmakers and how you say all the time it's more difficult than ever before to successfully sue big companies, big hospitals, things like this, and doctors. Anything to your knowledge that passed that takes effect today?
There is some new legislation on what we call a qualified protective order, which allows doctors who are going to be sued for malpractice to obtain a patient's records and then to talk privately with the doctor's defense counsel about anything that they want to. The rule before this was that you were not allowed to have conversations, you being a doctor, with your lawyer.
What do you mean with your lawyer? I mean, a doctor couldn't talk with your lawyer?
A doctor could not talk to the doctor's lawyer or the insurance company's lawyer about the patient's background or health because the patient has what they call a covenant of confidentiality.
Okay,
Some call it a privilege. That's really not what it is, but it's make sure that your conversations with your doctor are private.
Is that like the HIPAA laws?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And then our legislature decided that they didn't think that was fair. They thought the doctors needed even more protection than they already have, so they have now decided that the doctors will be permitted to talk to the insurance company lawyer about anything in the world they want to talk about that has to do with the patient's care.
Does that lawyer there then, though, have a certain responsibility to not let it go anywhere from that point on? Is it just between the two of them?
Well, it can be used in the litigation,
okay,
obviously.
It can be used in the litigation. Wouldn't it come out in litigation anyway? Once it's in the court, the HIPAA laws, aren't some of those
That's correct.
relaxed?
What the patients are upset about is the patients say, we should be there. If you're going to have a conversation, and by the way, this isn't the defendant doctor, this is the treating doctors talking to the insurance company doctor.
Right.
And they're like, look, if you're going to talk to the insurance company lawyer, then talk to my lawyer. Let's get it all out there at one time. Don't secretly go behind my back and talk to the insurance company.
Is this another one of those cases where you see they continue to tighten the noose, make it more difficult for people to sue?
It's just
what it is.
It's exactly what it is.
Every step of the way. And what do you think it is that makes this happen? I mean, is it just a powerful lobby? I mean, lawmakers look at this, and I can't help but think if I'm a lawmaker, yeah, sure, I'm going to listen. I want to be balanced and fair, but at the same time, I'm thinking one of these days I may go in for a procedure, and I'm passing this to make it more difficult for me to sue. What if I get messed up? I mean, I'm just wondering, lawmakers are humans too. Do they think about, well, most of them are humans, do they think about, how this affects the consumer?
I don't think in their mind that they really care. I think that
it's just about big business money and
their constituents are insurance companies, doctors, and hospitals. They're the ones that have the majority in the House and in the Senate right now, and they're the ones that are writing the laws, and the governor's going to sign them, and that's just the way it's going to be until there's a change in the political winds. And the interesting thing in my mind about the legislators is they don't care about these things unless it happens to them. Mm-hmm. And it's always the way it is. It's always easier to make laws and cut somebody else's rights until it affects you.
Yeah, they lack empathy unless...
I think they lack judgment, but that's
judgment too. Well, sometimes
story.
They lack judgment, and of course, he has his point of view.
Absolutely,
you are an attorney that sues for this. Listen, we can take some phone calls from you if you have questions. I kind of want to give you a chance to lay out for folks as we do before we get into a couple cases that have been in the news lately. What some of the common things are they need to be aware of when they're considering whether or not they've been done wrong. Well, if someone's sitting there thinking, oh, okay, Clint Kelly's on Nick's show, I want to call in and ask. I remember I was in the hospital, and what questions you have to ask yourself when you're wondering whether or not maybe you're a victim of malpractice?
Well, the first question or the first point that I always make is, have you sustained a serious life life-threatening or life-changing injury, or has there been a death in the family? It needs to be a serious major injury. Otherwise, my experience is juries will not compensate fairly. That's
Point
the first
taken
thing.
on that is that you've come across cases where clearly you felt there was some malpractice here, but the damages weren't great enough that, hey, if there's not damage, even if they did you wrong, you're going to come up bupkis.
That's correct. It's very unfortunate. It's just a product of the system that we have right now. A lot of cases fall through the cracks. The second thing I say is, if you think in your gut something has gone wrong, your gut is right a whole lot. And so if you have an instinct that there's been some error made that you believe is substandard, then simply pick up the phone and call a lawyer. Call me or call another board-certified medical malpractice lawyer. The opinion and the consultation is free. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
And as you and I have discussed many, many times, there's a statute of limitations in Tennessee of 1 year from the date of injury or discovery of the injury, so you can't sleep on your rights. You need to move quickly if you believe that you've been done wrong. Don't think that, you know, after a few months or 6 months that you can come back and necessarily make a claim, because you may have gone beyond the year and not even known it.
Yep, and he's told me before, because you're right, we've talked about that a lot. You've had cases come through the door that were good, and you've got it all there, and you say, now when did this happen? It's over a year. They're home free. They can't sue.
And a lot of times I've had situations where the patient says, the doctor told me I'd get better. I just needed about a year to get better. And then the year passes, the patient says, I'm not better. The doctor says, you're discharged from my care. Patient calls me up and I say, you got no claim.
Doctor know that when they say that?
I can't speak for what the doctor knows. I'm just telling you it's happened. It's very coincidental.
All right, listen, we're going to take a phone call before we take our first break, and I do want to get into this case that was in the news. We were just talking when he sat down. It's very interesting. But let's take a call quickly here before our first break from Marcus. Marcus, good morning.
Good morning to you guys. I want to first ask the attorney, I had a situation where my father had, I presume, had been abused by one of his caregivers. We had in-home health care. By a company called Guardian. And basically, when I filed with the Adult Protective Services Agency, they really didn't do the job that they were supposed to do. And actually, they tried to look like it was something that me and my other family member were doing that was incorrect. And basically, they fell through basically the agency that's supposed to be there for us and the person who needs their assistance. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. Is there any kind of thing that I could do as far and we could do as far as filing a lawsuit toward the Adult Protective Services of Tennessee? And is there any kind of a solicitor general that would handle something like that in Tennessee? And I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
The short answer, in my opinion, is no. Bringing a claim against the state for a situation like this, to me, is not going to be a successful avenue. I think in this situation, the best remedy is to either speak to your state or local legislator, speak to someone at the Department of Health about how you were treated, and handle it administratively through the complaint process. That's not going to be very satisfactory. It's going to be time-consuming, but suing Adult Protective Services for basically blaming you is something that's not going to be, I think, a fruitful endeavor.
I mean, I'll tell you this, suing the state or any municipality, even when you have a strong case, in this one, while he may feel he has, something to argue here, they looked into it. Whatever reason, they decided that, the agency that his parents or his father was at was not responsible. But even if you have a good case, it's hard to sue the state. And there are caps involved with what you can get there, too, anyway, right?
Yeah, and I mean, the question is, what are the damages? Because it's not the damage to this person's parent. It's the damages claiming he was mistreated in the process of investigation, which, while it's very sad to hear that, it's just not a viable court case.
Right. No, I mean, it was a good question, though, Marcus. A lot of people wonder those things, and it's good to lay it out that quite often you may think you have a case and you really don't. Again, anyone can sue for anything. The question is, can you win? We'll take a break on that note. When we come back, more of your phone calls. We'll talk about medical malpractice and some of these very interesting cases that got me thinking, because we've all been through this procedure, if you're older, that led to a big settlement. We'll be back right after this.